Now that we have our form validation happening, we could create a user account. And then once we have the user, we can store that user in what's called a cookie. So in this video, we're going to just do like a fake user for now and just focus on cookies. So cookies are little bits of information that your server, that your app, can send to the browser, and the browser will hang on to that information. And then when the browser comes back to your site, makes a request to your site, it'll send that cookie back to your server, and that is the fundamental mechanism of authentication. We store a little bit of information about the user, and then the browser sends it back, and then we can look at that information to see who it is that's making that request. So if we don't have errors, or if we do have errors, then we'll return them. Otherwise, let's make a user. We'll say await create account, give it an email and password. Let's make this create account over here in a module that I have called auth. Like I said earlier, I like to kind of keep my loaders and actions really clean. So here we can see we've got a cookie secret. We'll be talking about that in a minute, so you can ignore that for now. But let's export function create account. Let's make it async. It's not really going to be yet, but when we talk to the database, it will be. We'll get an email, that's a string, password, also a string. And then let's just return a fake user and say like user ID 1, sure. And then we can go back over here and import it. And now we've got our little user, which is an ID on there. And then what we do after we have a user is we return a redirect. This is something that we'll bring in from Remix Run Node. You can see right there. And let's just redirect to slash. So what we're gonna end up doing is here. Let me run through this once. So I put in an email address, put in a password, hit enter. See, now we've redirected to the home page, and we want to flip this login button over to a log out button. In order to know that, we need a cookie in the root loader to be able to read and see who the user is, to even know that they're logged in. So the first step here is setting a cookie over here on our redirect. So redirect second argument takes a headers object, or a request init is what it's called. You can look that up on MDN, a request init. Oh yeah, see, this already knows what I want. So I could just say like user ID. So here, Copilot is helping me write one of these cookies by myself. It's a string, and they can be difficult to do manually, but this would totally work. I'm going to call this auth, and then we give it the user ID, what path. So we'll talk about these options in a minute. Same side, I might want lags, yada, yada, yada. So I could do it all manually, but Remix has a cookie abstraction that helps you manipulate and work with this string, so you don't have to know all the syntax and everything. Excuse me. So let's go back to our auth module, and let's actually make our cookie. So I'm going to say export let cookie equal create cookie, and this comes from Remix Run Node or Cloudflare or whatever thing you're using. In the future, this is all just going to come from Remix, but we're not there yet. We will be soon if you're watching this in the future, and please let me know, how's the future? All right, so create cookie, and we'll give it a name auth. This create cookie function takes a second argument that has a bunch of options. I'm just going to throw them in here, and then we'll talk about them later. And Copilot actually did a pretty good job of what I wanted. And then XAge as well. And we'll talk about these in just a second. Yeah, 30 days, that's good enough. Yep, those are all the ones I want. We'll talk about those again. So now I come back over here, and instead of manually writing this thing out like this, I can bring in, what did I call it? I want to call it my auth cookie. So I'm going to bring in my auth cookie. And I'm going to say auth cookie serialize. I'm going to put the user ID inside of there. I actually need to await that. So that's going to create the string for us instead of us having to do it manually. And then this is the value that we put inside of it. Let's save this and do, oh, my styles are bad right there. I should fix that. All right, here we go. Let's open up the network so that we can see what happens. Oh, I'm going to want to remember. Well, it doesn't matter. And then I hit sign in. Okay, let's look at this post. We've seen this before. It sends this payload. And then in the response that comes back, notice here that we have the set cookie header. That's from us putting set cookie right here in our code. We said header set cookie, so we end up with the header set cookie over there. We can say see auth. It's got that name auth because our auth cookie has that name right here. Whatever string we put there is what shows up over here. And then this gobbledygook mess is because it's using our secret. So in here we're saying, what are the secrets for this cookie? There's some misunderstanding here. Sometimes people think that the secret means that people can't read it if they get access to this cookie. You can. It's just a base64 encoded string, so you could decode it and see it. But the secret makes sure that you can't tamper with it. You can't manipulate it. So it means that it's our code that set the cookie rather than someone else trying to spoof it. And then we can see here our max age. We did the max age over there, and we can see the path. We put the path here, and then HTTP only. We put that one right there. That means that the cookie is only accessible through HTTP on the server. So JavaScript, oh, looks like I was practicing. JavaScript has access to document.cookie, but if you say HTTP only true, then JavaScript can't access it. And then what else we got in here? Same site lacks. So if you've heard of CSRF tokens, cross-site request forgery tokens, this feature here, same site lacks, should make it so that you don't need to use cross-site request forgery tokens. It makes sure that the cookie is only readable and writable from the same site. Some other site can't like set a cookie on yours. And lax means that you can, it'll send, maybe I don't need to go into all these details. Oh well, lax same-site cookies. You should really read up on these. Same-site cookie lax. Actually, let's talk about strict first. That makes it easier. The other option that you can put in here is same-site strict says that no matter where you come from, if you're coming from some other website and you click a link or you submit a form from that website over to your website, a cookie will not be sent from the other website to yours. They can't set a cookie at all. And that request also can't read a cookie either. So when you come from their website to your website, your request can't even read the cookie because the browser isn't going to send it. Here, let me show you what I'm talking about. If I reload this page, you can see down here that the request header, this is the request header. So the browser made this request. You can see cookie, we sent that. It's because we're on the same site. I just hit refresh. If I clicked a link from a different page, a different website, a different domain, and I have same site strict, it won't even send that cookie, so you can't read it. Same site lax says, all right, if it's just a link click, if they're just navigating to your page, then the browser will send the cookie. But if they're posting from their page, then they won't, because that's an attack vector. So maybe that's more than you wanted to know. I recommend just doing lax, because that gets you the protection you want without the problems of not actually ever being able to read the cookie to see if someone's logged in when you come from a different domain. That was way too long of an explanation. Didn't expect to spend that long here. But anyway, this is where we are. So now we got this cookie. It's time to goof around with this login button. So let's go to our root. And you can see here I've got a user ID of null. And if I put like 1 in here and save, flips over to log out. If I put null back here, then it goes back to log in. So how do I get this user ID? Remember, the user ID is what I stored in the cookie that I set. So I need to read that cookie in my root component, in my root route. So I'm going to export async function loader, and we'll get the request in here. Let's get our types. And then let's get our cookie string out of the request.header. Yep, get cook. Oh, there we are. So this is just a cookie string. It's this string over here that we were looking at before. And then I want to actually parse it out of the, I want to parse it with our cookie so that I actually have the user ID in there instead of just this big long string. So we will say await auth cookie. Let's import that. Dot parse cookie string. So that'll take this big string and give us back just the value of it. And then let's return user ID. And then down here, we're going to use loader data. Import that from Remix Run. And this returns an object, so I actually need to change the shape of this. Let's get some types in here. It's going to be an any because it's a cookie that got parsed. Like we might have the value, we might not have a value. We could get more strict on that type with some more validation in here. But I'm not going to do that yet. Let's save. And I don't know, everything blows up. Sometimes that happens. Hey, check it out, log out. It switched over. Let's come over to our application. We can see the cookie here. You can manage cookies in the DevTools over here on the application tab, and then down here in the cookies spot. So let's clear out this cookie, and then we'll reload. Whoop, and now it says log in. Let's run through it one more time. So I'm signing up. What happens? I click sign in. This post, just reviewing, this post over here in our sign up route, it added this cookie header. And so we get a set cookie down here. The browser takes that cookie and says, okay, I'm going to just store that here locally in the user's browser. And then on any subsequent requests, so down here, we went to revalidate the data when we redirected to the root. And so Remix made a fetch to go get that data. We can see the payload here. We get user ID 1. Not too shabby. So down here in the headers, how did that happen? Well, that request has this cookie, not set cookie. It has a cookie where the browser sent it back to the server. And so in the server, in our server code, we say, all right, give me the header from the cookie header. Give me the string from the cookie header. Let's parse it out with the auth cookie we created, and then return it out of loader data. And now we've got, now it's just data like everything else. And our UI can branch on that. Where does it branch? A lot right here. Do we have a user ID? All right, render a logout button. Otherwise, render a login link. Cool.